Girls, guys and gals, welcome to the broadcast. And Dove Aaron here of Full Monty Leadership. Just thought I'd let you have a look at the scenery first. Down here at Cole Harbour, British Columbia, Vancouver, British Columbia. See boats out in the water, sailing around, chilling out. Pretty nice, huh? Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome to this beautiful place. And in case you're wondering what that noise is in the background, you can see it from here. Maybe we can. Let's have a look. Let's see if we can see it. We can zoom in a bit. Yeah, you can see that that is the seaplanes. See them over there? Oops, sorry. So that's planes taking off on the water. Pretty nice. Lovely view, lovely day. And I want to thank you for joining me. If you're here live, say hello. If you're watching this as an encore, welcome. I said that today, 3:30 Pacific and 6:30 Eastern, I would be doing a show. And the show today would be about why you fell out of love and why you may have wanted to quit on your personal development path. Now, I'm assuming you've been in love, right? I think we've all had something resembling that experience at some point in time. Do you remember when you fell in love? Let's just walk a little bit. Do you remember when you fell in love? Do you remember, let me just put these on. Do you remember how amazing it was? Do you remember how you were maybe had that moment, or maybe longer than a moment, maybe a while, where you were certain that this person was the one for you? And maybe you thought that they were your soulmate and it was always going to be great and it was going to be perfect, it was wonderful. And maybe you broke up, but maybe you got married, maybe you even had some kids. So how does somebody go yes, Renee, there is no better feeling. Hey, Lisa, there is no better feeling. How does somebody go from being madly in love, seeing that person as the greatest gift known to men or woman, how do you go from that to somebody you can't even bear to look at? Because we've all had that experience, right? If you have been in love or got married and then you've gotten divorced, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So how does somebody go from being madly in love to feeling like, you know, somebody is the greatest gift on earth, and then falling out of love? How does that even happen? How do we do that? How do we go from one extreme to the other? I'm going to talk about that today, and I'm going to talk about how that actually ties in to why you might have considered walking away from your own personal growth, personal development path. They are actually tied. So let's see if you can remember when you first fell in love. Remember when you first not met the person, but when you really, you know, you've gotten to know them a bit, and you really felt those feelings of love. Remember that? Remember how magical that was? I want you to think about how you were. Not who you were, how you were. See if you can remember how you were when you fell in love. Not how they were, that'll come later, but how you were. How did you feel? You got an aha moment, Renee, that's good already. How did you feel and how did you behave? And just to take full responsibility here for a moment, when you fell out of love with them, were you behaving the same or were you behaving differently? My guess is you were behaving differently. Of course you were. So, what is the behavior of somebody who falls in love? Well, there's all kinds of behaviors, right? You're affectionate, you're loving, you're kind, you're empathetic, you're compassionate, you're affectionate. You know, there's all kinds of great behaviors that go on. But what is the dominant way of being, meaning how you run your mind during that phase of falling in love with somebody? When you fall in love, I want you to think about, you know those times where you've been with the person that you fell in love with, and you're having those conversations. You go, oh my God, it's 4 a.m. We've been speaking for 6 hours. How is that possible? Had those moments, right? How is it possible that we've been talking 6 hours? Where did the time go? Where did that time go? How did you go from just chatting to being together for 6 hours? You were in a state of giving. Yeah, that's possible, but there's more. Where did that 6 hours go? How did that actually happen? Now imagine if you've been in that relationship where you fell in love and then you fell out of love. Now think about this. What changed? Because you probably couldn't have a 6-hour conversation with that person once you started to fall out of love with them. What was the difference? I want you to think about this. During those conversations, there was an intent. You had a very clear intent. I wonder if you can guess what it was. It's not difficult. You wanted to get to know them. Yeah, I'm not talking about being asleep. I'm talking about when you're actually with the person and you're awake and you're falling in love. What is the intent? The intent is to get to know them. How do you get to know somebody? Well, I'll tell you how. 2 things happen. 1, you reveal yourself. And 2, this is the most important one, you become deeply curious about the other person. You become deeply curious about the other person. I sign off every one of these broadcasts by saying, stay curious, my friend, stay curious. And I know that people don't really grasp what that means, to stay curious, to be deeply curious about another person. You see, instead of being curious, we assume we know things about them. And we fall out of love because we stop being curious. Curiosity is love. They go hand in hand. You want to stay in love? Stay curious. You know why you're still in love with your kids? Because they're constantly shifting, changing, and evolving, and you're always curious. You want to know where it's going. And even though some of the stuff you'd prefer it went back to the way it was, you are remaining curious. Being curious keeps you in a state of love. I've been with my wife 20 years. I know her pretty well, but she always surprises me. And I hope I surprise her. And I'm always willing to be curious and understand something that I don't know. And I want to ask the questions. We stop asking questions. We stop being curious. We start moving to assumptions and presumptions. And that's how we fall out of love. Remember when you started that new job or that new career and you were just so fucking excited, you were so on fire, it was like, oh my God, I get to do this, I love working here, I love these people, I love this job, I love what it is that I'm doing, I love that I am following my passion. And then, a year and a half later, year later, maybe a little bit less, maybe a bit more, oh, kind of bored here. Well, I thought you loved it there. Yeah, I did, but I don't know. You lost the curiosity. You stopped being curious. When I work with leaders and CEOs and companies, that's one of the first things I'm asking them. What are you still curious about? What can you stop assuming about your organization? What can you stop assuming about your team? What can you stop assuming about your customer? What can you get curious about that you think you already know, but you don't? Get deeply curious. You fell out of love because you stopped being curious. When you become curious again, it's easy to fall back into love. Get curious about the person you're with. Get curious about your friends. Get curious about your children. Get curious about your lover. Get curious about your parents. And here's the thing about curiosity, it's also clarity. The more curious you get, the clearer you'll get, the more you'll actually get to see who these people really are. And as a result of that, you might go, okay, don't want them in my life. Nothing wrong with that. That's okay. Maybe they're not a good fit. That's also good. Curiosity is clarification, but it's also love. It's a way to get you back into that space, is to get deeply curious about everything in your life. You fell out of love because you stopped being curious. That's good, Lisa. I'm glad you're curious about Curious George. And maybe that's the new motive, right? Is to be Curious George. Get curious about everything. When you start assuming that you know, you're dead in the water. Now let me tie this to you, because I said that I was going to talk about two things. Why you fell out of love, which we're talking about here. And I said why you might have sort of felt like quitting on your personal development path. You know, if you've been doing the work on your own growth and your own development for any period of time, then at some point you've probably gone, how many more workshops do I need to do? I mean, how much more therapy do I need to do? How many more books do I have to read? There's a good chance at some point you've gotten to that. And if you say you haven't, then you've probably not been doing it long enough, or you've not dug deep enough. Because everybody gets to that point. I've gotten to that point. People do get to that point. But when is enough? Well, first of all, if you've lost curiosity about yourself, you're going to want to quit. No doubt about it. If you're not curious about yourself, remember, curiosity and love go hand in hand. People are looking for self-love. They go, you know I need to love myself more, but they've stopped being fucking curious about themselves. They say shit like, well, this is just who I am. If you're not curious about yourself, how can you possibly have self-love? Curiosity and self-love, hand in hand, match, they go together. Yeah, they're yummy together. They glue together. You want to be in love with yourself, you want to find your own self-love? Get curious about yourself. Get deeply curious about you. Get curious about what makes you tick. Get curious about what drives you, what inspires you. Get curious about that and you'll fall back in love with yourself. If you're not in love with yourself, you're a boring bum bag. Stop being so bleeding boring. Find out about yourself. Get interested in you. And if there's not anything that's very interesting, then start making things interesting. Get curious about how you can become a more interesting person. And by the way, one of the ways to become a really interesting person is to become a really interested person. Get really interested in things, which means get curious about other people. Get curious about other things in your life. Get curious. The reason you've wanted to give up your personal development, spiritual, personal growth, whatever term you want to use, path, is because you've stopped being curious. You think you know it. Dead in the water. 3 words, dead in the water. I know that. If you're running, I know that, you're dead in the water. It's all over, folks. You know, well, I know that about him. I know that about her. Oh, I know that. You don't need to teach me that. I already took a workshop. I did a workshop with Dov in 1990. Whatever. Who gives a shit? Doesn't matter. I'm learning stuff I knew 25 years ago, 30 years ago. Because you never really know it. There's always a deeper level to take things to. Get curious about yourself. Get curious about the people you love. Now, let me tweak this a little bit around this piece around why you might have wanted to quit on your personal growth. Yes, you've got to have this deep curiosity about you, about life, about nature. I mean, can you go for a walk and actually be curious? Or do you just walk? Do you ever think about the way things are? Do you walk around with curiosity, or do you just walk around? Can you stop and take it all in and become deeply curious about why that building up there is that shape? Wonder who designed it. Can you get curious about that? Can you get curious about all the things that surround you every single day? Can you get curious about why it's summertime there's not a bloody leaf on that tree? Can you get curious about all the things around you every single day? You see, curiosity is embracing the mystery of life. Life is this mystical experience. Your 17-year-old sounds like me? Fantastic. Maybe you've met your new guru. It's your 17-year-old child. Get curious about life. Like, life is this freaking mystical experience, and we're sort of sauntering through it like, you know, like there's nothing going on. There are no ordinary moments. Every moment is magical. It's filled with juice, but we're so fucking caught inside here. We're so stuck inside our own coconut that we don't even notice what's going on. And so we're walking around as a bunch of boring bumbags, instead of being these people who are excited about life, who are entheos, who are drunk with the experience of the world by being deeply curious about everything that surrounds us. Get curious about your life. Get curious about life itself. When you look at a flower, don't just see a flower. Think about all the things that took place in order for that flower to exist. When you look at your children or your lover or your parents or whoever it is, get curious about why they are the way they are. It's easy to jump to the conclusion about who they are, and you've probably got good reason to say, oh, they're a pain in the ass or they're lovely people, but the truth is, get curious. Get curious, because nothing is what it appears to be on the surface. Life is this mystical experience that you can embrace and dance with. Fall in love. I said, I'm going to tell you about why you fell out of love with your partner, but I'm telling you about why you fell out of love with life. Why you've fallen out of love with yourself. It's because you stopped being curious. You got to conclusions. You got to assumptions. You stopped being curious. Now, there is another piece to this. You may have also been running under a false presumption. And the false presumption is this, that you started to do your personal growth and your personal development because there was something wrong with you, right? Many of us enter into personal growth and personal development with that presumption. I'm all fucked up and I got to get sorted out. All right, sure. If that's what motivated you, if that's what got you on the path, terrific. Nothing wrong with that. That's all right. So now you've been doing the work, you've been in therapy, you've been taking the workshops, you've worked with a coach or a mentor or read every book you can possibly get your hands on, and you're 10 years in, you're 12 years in, you're 15 years in, you go, oh my God, when does this end? More and more of my shit just keeps coming up. What is wrong with me? I'm defective. There's something wrong with me. If I keep going to this therapy, if I keep working with a coach, if I keep reading these books, keep taking these workshops, that's just validation that I'm all screwed up and I've just got to keep working at myself and I'm never going to be okay. Actually, that's not true. You can approach your personal growth and your personal development from the place of, I'm all messed up, there's something wrong with me and I'm looking for a fix. And if you do that, I don't blame you for wanting to quit, because it feels like you're never, ever going to get fixed, because you're not. And I'll tell you why you're not. Because there's nothing wrong with you. You got shit you got to clear up. That's fine. But here's the deal. It's not about getting fixed. It's about being better. Can't things always be better? Can't you always be better? Couldn't you find a better way? I don't work at my personal growth and my personal development to fix what's broken, because at the core of it, there's nothing broken in you. You are already whole. You are already perfect. You're already magnificent. And you've forgotten that. When I work with my clients, very often I'll say, I'm going to give you a bunch of great tools. I'm going to give you some amazing things that you can apply into your life and you can put on. But here's the bottom line. If we measure what I do with you, is it about what I give you, or is it about what I take away? My job is actually removing. One of my friends years ago said to me, what you are, Dov, is a soul surgeon. Just cutting away the shit that just is in the way. It's not about giving you more, it's about taking it away. Not for one simple reason, because what is in there is already whole. So get curious about how you're already whole. And yes, you're doing the work, you're taking the workshops, you're working with a coach or a therapist or a mentor or whoever it is, not to fix you, but to allow you to polish this amazing being that you are, so that you can be intoxicated with life, so that you can become deeply curious about everything that surrounds you. So that you can fall in love with your path again. So that you can fall in love with being deeply curious about what you can find out next about yourself. I'm always amazed at the stuff I find. Sometimes I'm really amazed and it's not like, woo, you know, sometimes I'm amazed like, holy crap, this shit, really, this is interesting that this has shown up. And it might be something I thought I dealt with 25 years ago. But that's part of the curiosity of life. And sometimes it's like, wow, I really had this idea, this limited concept of myself, and then boom, that's not true. I gotta be curious about that. Get curious about how you're wrong about your limitations. Get curious about everything in your life. Get curious, most of all, about you. Because I said, what made you fall out of love was how you lost curiosity. So if you want to fall in love again, get curious. Get curious with your kids, get curious with your lover, but more than anything, at the end of this, I'm going to challenge you. Go to the mirror. I really mean this. Go to the mirror, look in the mirror, look in your eyes, and just say, I'm curious about you. I'm really curious about you. And just keep repeating that slowly. I'm curious about you. I am really curious about you. I promise you, you will not approach your life the same way ever again. It will change. Get curious about life. Get curious about the people in your life. Get curious about your growth. Not because you're broken, not because you need to be fixed, because you just want to be better. And there's always better. There's a new level of refinement. We're all evolving. And the minute you don't want to evolve, you've lost curiosity. You're stuck. You're stagnant. So this is Dov Baron, fullmontyleadership.com. If you found value in this, I would love for you to leave me your comments. You know, I'm doing these and I really want to know that you're actually getting value out of them, okay? That's really important to me. So please put your comments in here. Tell me what you got out of this, what you're going to do with it, how you're going to apply it, and please share it with other people who could get value out of it. This is really important. Share this video with anybody that will get value out of it. Let them send them over to this page, Dov Baron Leadership. Have them like the page and then, you know, click down on that arrow and light up the notifications so that we can know when we're going live with another video. Okay? But I really want to hear from you. I want to know that this is adding value to you, because I'm going to keep doing these as long as they add value. But if there's just not enough feedback, then I'm not going to put my time and energy into it. And I want to give you this gift, but only if it's well received. There's no point otherwise, right? So I am curious if you are actually getting value out of this, whether you're sharing it. Let me know that too. I really appreciate it. I do. I'm very curious about you. I'm curious about the impact that I am blessed to have on your life, and honored that you took the time to be with me here today, right now, if you're live. And if you're not live, that's okay. I'm curious about that and really appreciate that you took the time to watch and that you gave it your attention. So as always, share the show with everybody you know. Dov Baron, Full Monty Leadership. Definitely stay curious, my friend. Stay curious. Till next time.